What I really had to have was a powerful desktop computer. Then someone told me about Dell. I got on the internet. Dell built a desktop.
The year is 1998, and the world of computers is filled with beige box after beige box after Bondi blue box after beige box. There really were not a lot of particularly innovative desktop or laptop designs on the market. Well, except for this one. This video is sponsored by Privacy.com, which lets you shop online safely by generating virtual credit cards. They've recently introduced new plans, so stay tuned until later in the video to hear about them. And if you check out the link in the description below and head over to privacy.com/LukeMiani, you can get a free $5 just for signing up. This is the Sharp Mobilon TriPad, and it's one of the most fascinating mobile devices I've ever seen. In a time where laptops weighed close to 10 pounds and were several inches thick, the TriPad breaks every rule of a traditional laptop. Before the concept of tablets or 2-in-1s or Ultrabooks even existed, this device launched with a sub-1-inch design, touchscreen, folding display, and all-day battery life. The Mobilon TriPad, which was developed in tandem with the much cooler named Vadim Clio, was overlooked when it came out and was not a success by any means. Despite its commercial failure, however, this was a very cool and innovative machine. Let's run through the hardware. The display of the TriPad is actually very interesting. It's a 9.4-inch passive matrix touch display with a resolution of 640 by 480. The touchscreen aspect is actually very similar to what you would find in an old-school GPS from the 2000s. It uses resistive touch, so basically there's a thin film suspended on top of the glass with an air gap. When these two films come into contact, it closes a circuit and detects an input. The downside of this is that it can only detect one input, and it basically has to be used with a stylus to have any sort of precision. The display itself is also quite outdated, even for 1998. It's a passive matrix DSTN display, which was already starting to look outdated next to active matrix LCDs and even advanced CRTs at the time. DSTN, which stands for Double Layer Super Twist Pneumatic, is a more advanced version of a passive matrix display. It essentially splits the display into two different segments, which allows it to be refreshed a little bit faster. Even with this more advanced technology, however, these displays are less responsive, less color accurate, and have much worse viewing angles when compared to active matrix displays. If you move the display even a small amount, the colors shift like crazy. It's hilarious. Sharp and Vadim chose these displays because they were a lot less expensive and lower power, which allowed for better battery life, but because they refresh so slowly, any motion on the screen has an insane amount of ghosting. So, what powers this display? Well, again, this was a pretty slow device even for 1998 standards. It uses a single-core MIPS 4000 series processor clocked at 84 MHz. The system has 16 megabytes of memory in total. Yes, that's 16 megabytes total storage and RAM. Here's the cool part though, you can actually choose how much you want to allocate to storage and how much is RAM. There's a slider in the system settings that adjusts the allocation, so if you store a ton of documents, like 9 or 10 megabytes worth of documents, you can shift it over that way a little bit to make some more room. Like I said, the hardware was very limited even for 1998, so critics were quick to note that this was not a full-fat laptop. But then again, have you seen the thing? This is not a traditional laptop in any sense. Let's consider that we're talking about a flippy folding wacky 2-in-1 and the year is 1998. People didn't even know what to call this thing because the idea of a 2-in-1 didn't exist. It was marketed as a sort of PDA laptop hybrid, a sort of a handheld but bigger type of thing, which was a little bit vague and confusing, and part of the reason why it wasn't a smashing success. Weird marketing aside, there are three main ways that the TriPad is supposed to be used. You've got the most traditional way. It's kind of like a laptop, but the screen is more elevated because it's hinged at the middle and can move on two axes, which means the display is actually a lot closer to you and more adjustable in terms of angle and height than in a normal laptop. It's actually pretty cool, and it does make up for some of the limitations of this rather dismal display. Next up, you have what Sharp called presentation mode. It's basically tent mode for presentations, though let's be honest, with the viewing angles of this display, there's not a chance that anyone would actually be able to see what's on the screen. And finally, there's tablet mode, when the display folds all the way over and you can use it like a tablet for image editing or taking notes or something without a keyboard, I guess, because the keyboard is hidden and there's no on-screen keyboard. The TriPad ships with Windows CE, which is kind of like a late 90s version of Windows RT from the original Surface. Despite sharing its visual identity with Windows 95 and 98, this is actually a different kernel and is specifically built for low-power devices. It definitely leans into the handheld PDA hybrid association with a bunch of bundled software that's all pretty lightweight. It actually ships with a whole very stripped down version of the Office suite. There's Pocket Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Pocket Access. It also comes with a light email client, calendar, contact book, task list, Document Explorer, Internet Explorer, File Viewer, Image Editor, and it even comes with Solitaire. It's very graphically simple, very late 90s, but it's actually a really fun app and it works very well. There's also some pre-installed Sharp software, and there's two of them that I think are very interesting. First up is the Voice Recorder app. There's not a lot to it, predictably, but the combination of the very cheap tiny mic and unreal amount of compression in order to fit onto this tiny amount of storage leads to some frankly horrifying voice recordings.
Oh boy, I bet you this is gonna sound just fantastic. It's gonna sound so good.
Oh boy, I bet you this is gonna sound just fantastic. It's gonna sound so good.
Next up, we have a really cool app called InkWriter, which is a notepad that allows you to mix text and handwritten drawings to make for a very interesting note-taking device. You can essentially take notes with illustrations, and for the late 90s, it's super cool. It even recognizes groups of drawings and allows you to individually rearrange different elements. Whew. So that's a lot of bundled software. This thing was pretty loaded, and that all fits in about 1 megabyte. But on top of that, the TriPad is also meant to be a connected device. So it has an expansion slot where you could put a wireless card, it has a modem, it even has an IR receiver that allows for wireless file transfer to a PC. And also, in addition to all of that connectivity, this is definitely a device that's meant to be used away from the power outlet. Amazingly, the Sharp Mobilon TriPad is rated for 12 to 16 hours of battery life. Now it's starting to make sense why we have a very dim passive matrix display and low power 84 MHz processor. 16 hours of battery life is nuts. This product was way ahead of its time by any measure. It was an iPad 12 years before Steve Jobs walked out on stage. It was an Ultrabook before Intel trademarked it. It was a 2-in-1 before anyone had coined the phrase 2-in-1. That's why it's so cool. But it's also why you've never heard of it. Sharp and Vadim had created a fascinating product with no category and no effective way to market it to consumers. People didn't know how to take advantage of the device's unique skill set and capabilities. I actually had one of these in my house growing up, and I was going to use it for this video, but unfortunately the display cables are damaged, so the display isn't really video worthy. So I decided to buy one for this video, and I almost wasn't able to find one. There were only 2 listings on eBay. One of them didn't work, and then this one ended up being a pretty good deal at 40 bucks. You know what you don't need to pay $40 for? Privacy.com, today's video sponsor. Privacy.com allows you to shop online safely without risking your sensitive information by generating virtual credit cards. The free version of Privacy comes with 12 cards per month, and Privacy is now launching 2 new paid versions, Pro and Teams, to supplement the free version. For just $10 a month, the Pro account comes with 1% cash back on everything you purchase, as well as a larger limit of 36 cards per month that you can create. The Teams account costs $25 a month and comes with everything that the Pro account features, as well as a dedicated account manager and an increased limit of 60 cards per month. So head over to privacy.com/LukeMiani with the link in the description below to get a free $5 just for signing up, regardless of which plan you choose to go for. So that'll do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is actually the second video that I've made on the Sharp Mobilon TriPad. I made a video back at the very start of this channel. It was one of the first videos I ever made, And I thought this was so fascinating that I'd give it another try almost 5 years later. So as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please consider following me on Twitter at Luke Miani, and don't forget to check out my subreddit, which is linked down in the description below. And with that, I'll see you all in the next video.